Welcome to the live Q&A sessions that I put together for the New Zealand health and safety professional community, both on the Facebook group. If you're not part of the NZHSP on Facebook, where have you been? There's about 1,600 plus members on the Facebook group and counting. So if you haven't discovered us on Facebook, jump on board. Simply search NZHSP on Facebook and you will find us there. Daily conversations, questions, answers, news alerts, bulletins, the whole shebang happens on the Facebook group and also on LinkedIn. So if you are following me on LinkedIn, you'll also get to see this live feed. So welcome everybody. Best way to help share this live production is to like, comment, share as far as you can, particularly on LinkedIn, and on the Facebook group. Just hang out, like, share, comment, and also engage. I've got the ability to track conversations and comments on both LinkedIn and Facebook. So during the next 28 minutes, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, feedback, Matt, you glitching, your voices all out of sync, let me know. If you have any questions about the topics that I'm about to talk about, again, feel free to ask your questions. This is all in an attempt really to have a bit of a two-way conversation with the wider health and safety community in New Zealand. It's all about creating a broader community and upskilling and pushing that capability upwards collectively, which is really exciting. So welcome everybody. A question I wanted to ask everyone on this very first episode of 2024 is a question I was asked earlier on today, and I wanted to hear your thoughts. I was asked the question, is it a legal requirement to have a hazard board at the front or at the entrance points of construction sites or construction work here in New Zealand? I'm going to leave that, guys, for you to answer. So as I take us through some of the topics, the hot topics of the day, I'd love you to have a bit of a think about that. Let me know in the comments, is it legally required to have a hazard board at the front of a construction or project type environment at the front entrances type of way? Let me know your thoughts and I'll come back to that in a little bit. So obviously there's some really significant news unfolding as I'm speaking. The Whakaari White Island trials are coming to, I guess, the conclusion stages of the whole process. We're now starting to understand the penalties and the charges that are being dealt out to those organisations and duty holders during this whole awful case. And so I'm going to speak to that in a moment. I'm also just going to check in and make sure you guys can hear me, see me, and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm just going to quickly jump onto the social feeds and just make sure that my ugly mug is up on your screens, and also just checking in to make sure that you can put in your questions, thoughts, and feedback as well. Cool. All right. Looks like it's working. All right. Nice. If you can let me know if you can hear, see me, audio quality is all good and all that kind of good stuff in the comment below the live feed. That would be warmly appreciated. Okay, so let's talk about some of the hot topics of the day. Obviously, the Whakaari White Island trial is really front of mind. So let's just quickly share my screen. Boom. And I'm just going to pull myself out of it a little bit. Okay, cool. So this is a live feed from the New Zealand Herald, who are helping to break the news from the courts today. So we understand that just over $10 million in reparations will be distributed out to the victims and the families. As you can see, the reparations will be paid by the island's owners. So Whakaari Management Limited White Island Tours and the helicopter company Volcanic Air Safaris will all be charged and required to pay these penalties. Judge Thomas has suggested that each individual general sum will be in the ballpark of $250,000, with some variation depending on individual circumstances. There's also some other key facts and figures that I wanted to just quickly read out, which have just disappeared on my screen. Darn. 2 seconds, team. Sherilyn, thank you so much for putting the link up on the NZHSP Facebook group for the Whakaari announcements today. It's been really useful just to watch this as it unfolds. Another key reason to be part of the NZHSP community is that you get these updates all the time from not just myself, but members of the community. It's so good. So we know that GNS will be sentenced a little bit later today. There's been 5 companies sentenced. The business that owns the island, Whakaari Management Limited, has been fined just over $1 million on 2 counts and is to pay total reparation of $4.88 million. White Island Tours, the tour operator, which had 38 tourists and 4 workers on the island when it erupted, it's just been fined $517,000 on 2 charges and is to pay a total reparation of $5 million. Volcanic Air Safaris, which had 4 tourists and a pilot on the volcano when it erupted, was fined just over $500,000 on 2 charges and is to pay a total reparation of $330,000. Interestingly enough, Arias and Kahu, both helicopter companies which took tourists to the island but had no one there when the island erupted, were fined $290,000 and $196,000 respectively, both on 2 separate charges. The judge had to comment earlier on today that Whakaari Management Limited did not appreciate it had a duty in relation to risk assessment. Judge Thomas said, it did not conduct any risk assessment. It argues it is therefore less culpable than if it had been aware of the duty and then deliberately ignored it. This is an interesting comment because from my naive perspective, that's sending a suggestion that because they were unaware that they should or ought to have done a risk assessment for their operation, they therefore didn't know the true risks of the operation or the environment in which businesses were operating, and therefore didn't put adequate controls in place. So they would have been more culpable if they had actually done what they ought to have done. Therefore, does it not stand to argue that the owners of Whakaari Island have been sentenced less purely because of their ignorance? I might be wrong. I'd be really interested to hear your comments on that, because that just makes me think that to plead ignorance has reduced the penalties and the sentencing for the business that owns the Whakaari Island. I could be wrong, but that seems to be the message that I'm picking up, which isn't the kind of message that I would like to be putting towards business owners and officers and PCBUs in New Zealand. Because it's certainly not a solid argument in my perspective. Anyway, I might be getting that wrong. I'd love to hear your comments on that. But those are some of the very latest updates from the Whakaari White Island trials. It's all coming out as I speak. Good places to follow for updates and news. New Zealand Herald's doing quite a good job, and I know TV1 News is also pulling out a lot of live updated feeds. This is all available on the NZHSP Facebook group, and I will just quickly remind you, lovely people, that we also have this cool tool, which is a WhatsApp group that is also through the NZHSP group. Free to join. It's a really quick and easy way to get free updates on news and events throughout the day. So if there is a news item or developing news stories via WhatsApp, you will get a text on your phone with a comment and a direct link to that news item. We now have over 100 members on this WhatsApp group. So all you need to do right now is scan your phone with the QR code. The QR code will take you directly to the group. All you need to do is just click follow and away you go. And it's a highly useful tool, not only for health and safety practitioners, for business leaders, business owners, senior executive, to keep up to date with the very latest when it comes to health and safety news in New Zealand and on a global scale. Cool. All right, so we've got some comments coming through. Let's have a quick quiz. The comment is, I'm just going to add it to the screen. Facebook user, sorry, I haven't got your name. It is their job to know what is involved in doing their job. Yeah, like I kind of agree. It's like the idea that the White Island management have received a reduced penalty simply because of their ignorance of their responsibilities to risk assess and mitigate whatever risks they identify. It's just, I don't understand it. So it will be, I mean, obviously I'm a layman in terms of legal health and safety, like legislative health and safety and criminal charges. It'd be really interesting to read the court case notes and all of the information that goes towards how the judge has made these decisions. But it just strikes a bit of a bung note for me. It just makes me think that I might be wrong, but it's the equivalent of being pulled over by a policeman or a police officer and saying, I'm sorry, I just simply didn't, I wasn't aware of that law, and therefore I should have a reduced ticket. Odd. It's very odd. It strikes me as a little bit strange. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see how that comes about. All right. Thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Okay, team. More news items which I wanted to just discuss with the time that we've got left together. So obviously the Whakaari White Island trial is really, there's a ton of updates coming out almost on an hourly basis at the moment, so well worth keeping an eye out on that. We have a statement from, or an attributable statement from Steve Hazard, the CEO of WorkSafe. Steve, welcome to social media. It's great to finally hear from you. First known statement I'm aware of since you came on board on the first week of October 2023. So it's great to hear from you, even though I'm not sure it's actually you that's written this. But an interesting statement nonetheless. So basically, it's just a reminder that businesses have a responsibility and a duty to take care of the people involved in their businesses, both visitors and their workers, and that businesses will be convicted if they are found wanting when it comes to criminal charges. So there you go. Okay, nice to hear from you, Steve. Okay. Couple of stories that I did want to speak to today. So obviously the Whakaari trial is all happening at the moment. It's just kind of rejigged some of the things that I was going to talk about today. Still waiting to hear your thoughts about whether a site hazard board on a construction site is legally required or not. Let me know in the comments, because I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that. That was a question that was raised with me earlier on today. And I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. So story 1st of February, so it's a couple of weeks back now, but this really struck a chord with me. My eldest son, he is 16, and I guess reading the story about what happened with Ethan really kind of struck a chord with me. Just 4 months into his role as an apprentice for this building company, and was killed whilst at work. Basically, very heavy piece of framing crushed him and killed him. And it turns out that there was available a a HIAB, which could have easily have done the lifting and avoided even having to be anywhere near that piece of timber when it was being maneuvered. So I guess the story and the lessons here is the importance of safety and design and pre-planning, of thinking through a task or a job long before the plant and equipment and machinery arrives on site, and long before the workers jump into the task. This is the kind of stuff that should be captured in those planning stages. And it avoids a lot of headache, a lot of stress for the guys on the ground, a lot of backache, and also completely and utterly preventable instances like this. So when I read this, like I said, this is a close to home story. Another thing that struck me was the penalties and the fines that the two businesses involved were charged. These seem incredibly low to me. Again, I'm just a layman, probably also a little bit more attached to this story because of the close relationship this has with my family. But those fines seemed awfully low. I had a bit of a look through the case notes to get a bit of an understanding of this, to get a better handle on the ripple effect of this case and how it's impacted the businesses, the families, the workmates, and the closer community. And certainly reading through the notes, you can see how much it has negatively impacted many different people. It's this question I've got around the fact that one of the companies financially was incapable of paying fines or reparations in excess of what it was charged. And there was a bit of a question around this in terms of the Whakaari case as well, in terms of whether the businesses were able to afford the penalties that were likely to be put to them. It's a really interesting question around how this is going to impact and have a role to play in future trials and cases and prosecutions, and whether the fact that businesses can't afford to pay what they should really be fined, how that is going to perhaps curb and dilute the future cases in the courts. I'm really keen. I'll definitely be catching up with Deanne Brabant, who I've spoken to over the years, in particular around Whakaari, but also around these kind of cases as well, to get a better understanding of how the penalties and fines work and in the context of them. Because when I mention context, only a few weeks later, we've got this awful case where an older woman was at Trade Depot, and unfortunately she came into contact with a forklift, and subsequently she lost her leg. Awful scenario, awful story. But again, I mean, the takeaways here and the lessons are the importance of having traffic management plans, adhering to them, ensuring that they are still robust and the controls are effective. And if they're not, again, reassessing and continually improving. Again, what was interesting for me, and I know we shouldn't focus in on the fines and the penalties. It's certainly not the only thing to come from these kind of events and investigations, but we've got almost comparable fines and penalties for someone who was, really unfortunately has lost their leg and completely avoidable on one hand, and then we've got a family who have just lost their son on the other hand, and the fines and penalties are comparable. Again, just a layman, I will definitely be picking the brains of those in the legal space to get a better understanding of this in the near future, but it doesn't quite seem to add up to me. Anyway, just some thoughts. Again, any feedback, any comments would be greatly appreciated on anything I'm speaking about so far. All right, team. Today, obviously, the news is full of what's happening at the Whakaari White Island trials, but there is another case that, or another piece of news that I wanted to speak about during this 30-minute section. Before I crack into that, though, just going to take a breather. I'm just going to check in and make sure you guys are all good, that you can hear me, that things are ticking along as well as they ought to. I'm just going to quickly just come back onto full screen. Talk to you about this really beautiful, amazing background I've got here. So over the next few weeks, months to come, I'm going to be working really hard to make this a really pretty background. Maybe insert a bookshelf. Maybe you could recommend some books that you would like me to highlight in terms of your health and safety journey. Maybe some posters or images that will inspire and keep you guys entertained. So I'm just going to quickly check on the social, just make sure I haven't missed anything important. Cool. And your Facebook. All right. Marvelous. All right. Cool. Awesome. All right, team. So let's continue. So weekly Q&A sessions. The whole purpose of this is to talk about the current news, events coming up, and also just touching base with you all. These will be recorded and are being recorded as I speak, and made readily available on both Facebook and LinkedIn. And I'll also be placing them as a separate podcast series on YouTube. So I'll be sharing those links and making them readily accessible to you over the next few days to come. So if you do have to rush off back to work, or if you're just kind of half listening whilst you are doing your typing, that's all good. You can always catch up at a time that suits. Also, for those of you who are tuning in on the recordings, you can still put in your comments and questions, because we are always looking back, and we're always engaging in those conversations during the live conversations and in the posts as well. All right, a little bit of news that cracked this morning. The forestry industry that have been receiving funding from ACC and from WorkSafe for the past 5, maybe 6 years, have just had their funding cut. And what struck me as a point of interest is, one, why? I know budget and all that kind of jazz, and things are being cut left, right, and centre. But surely one of the highest risk industries in New Zealand, which produces some of the biggest profits and incomes in New Zealand, surely a helping hand is still required. I can't imagine this project has just come to a natural conclusion. The Safety Council have said that this has come as a big shock to them, and the news only broke thanks to RNZ's reporters chasing both WorkSafe and ACC for a statement for the last couple of days. So the industry has been surprised by this announcement, and I think all of us are probably kind of wondering what the heck. It's disappointing. So there you go. So the full story is on our RNZ website. You can catch it there. And yeah, I'm just really sorry to have read this morning, particularly when I think back to the Herculean efforts it took in order to get this type of funding and the support within the industry, and the likes of the late Helen Kelly, who had such a significant role in putting a significant focus on an industry that has been needing some assistance, and had its some light shone on it in order to help turn it around. So I'm very sad to have read that this morning. Okay, cool. I've got some lovely comments coming through. Thanks, team. Just back to my earlier conversation around the trade depot incident with the forklift hitting a customer and unfortunately leading to the loss of that person's leg. Yes, you're absolutely right. There's the 2016 incident, and I'm sure there's probably one or two others that I've heard of down the grapevine. Yeah, and I guess that's possibly one of the reasons why the penalties were set at the total that they were, but still leads me to question, how come someone's lost a leg? On one hand, really awful, don't get me wrong, but on the second hand, it's like, how does that compare with the loss of a life, particularly a young apprentice that had only been in work for a matter of weeks? It just doesn't add up to my... Someone else has quite kindly suggested to get a green screen. Yeah, you're right. I probably should get a green screen. I guess I look at all the other podcasters and all the YouTubers out there, and they've all got these really pretty bookshelves and fancy lights and stuff in the background. I quite fancy doing something like that myself. So, like I said, if you've got any suggested books that I should put on that bookshelf, let me know, and I'll start building out my library. Cool. All right, team. Just doing a quick time check. Excellent. Okay, so that's the latest goss in terms of news that's been hitting the headlines. All of that news is being covered and shared on the NZHSP WhatsApp group. If you're not on board with that already, where have you been? Simply scan the QR code, and that will just take you straight through to it. You'll get notifications through your phone, free of charge, with all the latest news and event information direct to your phone. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this sneaky wee thing. So a couple of days ago, we announced that there is going to be a summit in early 2025, a 2-day conference somewhere in New Zealand. And at the moment, we're just simply taking expressions of interest and created a wait list to ensure that those who sign up to the wait list get the very latest information in regards to the where, the who, the what, and the how. It also ensures that you get a say in how the conference will be shaped and the format in which we will follow. There are 5 questions sitting behind this sneaky wee screen here that will enable the event organizers to ensure that you have the very best conference experience ever. I'm not messing around. We are going to completely shake up what a conference is about, and we're going to ensure that you are left with takeaways and experiences that will have a significant impact on your professional development and your journey in health and safety and beyond. So if you haven't added your details to the waitlist yet, I strongly encourage you to do so. I'll share the link at the bottom of this feed as soon as I come off the live call. Yeah, I mean, the response to this has actually surprised even me. So it's only been live for 2.5, maybe 3 days, and we're getting pretty flipping close to the number of seats that are available for this conference already. So this is just the waitlist. You haven't missed out on anything yet. If you want to get involved, if you want to hear the latest, if you want to know when the early bird tickets become available, if you want to hear more about the keynote speakers, if you want to have an influence on how this conference will be pieced together, this is your chance right now. So get involved in that. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is the Health and Safety Unplugged podcast is back for season 4. Kicked off about a week ago now. I spoke to the really awesome team at Site App Pro, who took us through their journey, how Site App Pro came about, how they are gamifying health and safety reporting in the construction sites. So basically, it's a way of encouraging people to actually actively participate in using those electronic reporting tools that are available to them and the impact that it has had. So we're actually seeing some evidence in terms of return of investment when it comes to health and safety. A really awesome conversation with these guys. It's available for free on YouTube and also on Spotify. Just simply search Health and Safety Unplugged to fill your boots. Also, it's season 3, and some of the earlier webinars that I've done are also available on YouTube, and you can also find everything on the Advanced Safety page as well. So there you go, so much stuff, and it's all free, and it's all just been driven by really amazing, passionate people who are determined to turn the tide when it comes to the appalling statistics that we still see here in New Zealand, because I know that the capability is there, and I know that the people are there. You guys are like phenomenal, and it's just a case of creating the support and the space for us to all actively engage, participate, and grow collectively. So there you go, 2:29 with a minute to spare. I will just quickly, you know what, I forgot to share my screen, didn't I? There we go. I'm talking about all this cool stuff and I forgot to put it up. There we go. Oh, look, there it is. So you'll find that on the on YouTube. You will find this when I share the link direct to the waitlist for the NZHSP Summit. Super exciting. And also, grab your phone, scan the code, and join the WhatsApp group for live updates and feeds. Obviously, within reasonable timeframes, we won't be sending anything at silly o'clock. All right, team, it is 2:30. I'm going to keep this to a 30-minute window because I know you're all super busy, being amazing out there, doing what it is you do, which is such important mahi. Thank you all who have turned up on this live call. Thank you for those that have contributed. Thank you for those who have simply hung out with me during this time. And also a big thank you to those who are watching the recording as well. I see you, and it's great to have you here. So the biggest thing you could do to help with the success of this weekly show is to share, to comment, to encourage your workmates, your peers, your friends, your colleagues to engage and get involved in this, whether it's on the Facebook NZHSP group or simply by following me and my journey on LinkedIn. I will be tuning in every Friday at 2 p.m. for a 30-minute show here on NZHSP. So until next week, stay safe, keep being awesome, and I'll see, no doubt, some of you out and about over the next few days. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you very much. See you.